Okay, welcome back to my friend Grady for the second time. A second Extra Life donation, which is fantastic. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you again. This time, however, we are talking about Superliminal, which is a fantastic little puzzle game. Very short playthrough. Like, I encourage anyone to check this out. It's on Games Pass, and it's a great little playthrough. We'll obviously dive into it here, but fun if you like Portal, if you like Braid. Those were the two games that I kind of thought of a ton as I was playing through this. Is like, yeah, these puzzles feel a lot like a Braid or a Portal, and that manipulation of space time kind of stuff. So, welcome back. First question, as always, is there any particular reason you chose Superliminal? Does it hold a special meaning in your heart or anything?
So not the same way that those rare, games did. This was sort of a like a mea culpa for making you do a 30-hour review of a anthology last time. This is candy, where that was serious
I
business.
appreciate it because the other two were both 20+ hour game plays. So
Yeah,
hopefully this video will be a little bit shorter when it's all said and done too.
yeah. So that was part of it, and I played through 5 or 6 games that were like one sitting games, 4 or 5 hours that were really good. And I liked this one because it was so like it had a lot of callbacks. I felt to Portal, a lot of
Mhm.
like in references to it, and uh it was a fun game, and it was using sort of a mechanic in a novel way, and I think they used it pretty much as they could. Like, I don't think they could have got another 4 hours out of the
Yeah.
game or anything, but it was fun. And there's some analogous things. Instead of like Gladys, you know,
Yep.
kibitzing you've got the doctor or whatever.
Yeah. It felt the VO feels exactly like that to me. Like, you've
Right.
got kind of the Gladys and the Cave Johnson
Yeah.
character kind of going on. Obviously, like, the Doctor is a lot more like chill vibe than
Yeah.
a Cave, but
Yeah.
really good VO work. Like, for an indie title, especially. I mean, Portal 2, I mean, you had like a full, like,
Yeah.
what's
So
his name's voicing Cave, and like you have a pretty great budget going into this game. This is like a
yeah.
little indie, like Superliminal is a nice little indie title,
Right.
but done really well.
Yeah. Absolutely. I thought it was fun. And it was a toss up between a few, and that one was just like, it was fun. So let's do that one.
Yeah, no, it was great. Like, I think this is a great, and like the length is like perfect to me. Like, this is the
Yeah.
sweet spot. Is like a 3 to 5 hour puzzle game
Yeah.
is like a great little game. You can enjoy it over a weekend. You can do the single setting. Like, I mean, you can sit down and on a Sunday afternoon and fly through this, and it's just like a great time. Like, I
Yeah.
really enjoyed like that timing aspect where it's like it didn't feel too short, it didn't feel too long. Like, when it was all said and done, you were kind of like, yeah, that was the right length. Like you said, like, you couldn't squeeze too much more out of the mechanics in here.
Yeah.
You could start to introduce some more, but then you're starting to stretch a little bit thin. Like, I think the
Yeah.
number of mechanics was nice too.
Yeah.
And that idea that, like, hey, we'll layer something new on each of these rooms. And the rooms are so short that if you use it and lose it, you use it and
Yeah.
forget it, it's not that big of a deal. Like, if we teach you a new mechanic and then you never use it again, you don't feel like you've invested the hours learning this mechanic just to have it thrown
Precisely.
away.
And
But
and the way they build is really interesting too, because it starts with some sort of really like familiar game mechanics. You have like switches, and you're taking things off of switches, and that like allows a door
yeah,
to open. And then so you get to use those tools in a very normal way at first, and then it
yeah.
just gets weirder and more
Yes.
involved, and just the whole environment changes, and it's kind of a
Yeah.
just a fun trip to be on.
Yeah, there's definitely that breaking point where you're like, okay, like, things are getting weird. Like, I remember that, like, first when you step into the Shining hotel kind of look,
Yeah.
and you're like, okay, now we're getting a little weird. But like, at that point, you don't even know what weird,
Right.
like, you don't even know what you're getting into, and then it just slowly progresses, and it's
Yeah.
exactly that. Like, it's a really good ramp. Like, I think the ramping in this
Mhm.
game was like, it was beautiful. Like, it was done beautifully. Like, both mechanics, visual elements and just that like, I mean, for the namesake, like that subliminal kind of stuff going on
Yeah.
just got like, it never took like a deep dive to the weird. It was like slightly weirder, then slightly weirder, then slightly weirder.
Yeah, precisely. Yeah.
What
Like
was your like as far as the rooms are concerned? Did you have like a favorite room? Was there one that like jumped out as like the most entertaining, like or the most visually appealing?
yeah, so there's one where you're sort of in a hallway and you have to like expand a globe and like you kind of break out of the level and like you're not even sure if you're supposed to be doing it. Like you feel like you might be getting away with something or like and that you get that feeling a lot in this game because
Yeah.
they don't really have very clear delineations of like progress. You just like you go through a door and now something has changed and you don't know if that's forward or sideways. And that really got me when you kind of break out of the level and you're like, I don't know if I'm supposed to be doing this. Like it's very strange.
Yeah,
So
I had a few times like that where it was, and I love this in puzzle games where you can kind of have that emergent behavior going on where you're
mm,
like, I don't know if this is the intended solution, or
right.
maybe they didn't care. Maybe it was like they knew there were multiple, or maybe they didn't care if you found one or not. There were multiple times where I was like, this may or may not be what they expected, but it worked. And I love that
Yeah.
they let me get away with it.
Yeah,
If they
absolutely.
didn't, like for all I know, they intended it, and I have no
Yeah.
idea. But it really did like have some moments where it was like this. I may be breaking the game, I may not, but it works, and if it works, it's not stupid, I guess. So
Yeah.
it was fun.
And to their credit, none of those things did break the game. Like you
Yeah,
don't fall outside of the map and
yeah,
then it become unplayable or something. Like you,
yeah,
it was very organic. It was a
yeah.
really cool
Yeah,
experience.
I had one spot that I had to do the like return to
Oh yeah.
checkpoint, and it was my fault. Like it was 100% my fault. I never had a point that the game put me in a situation where I had to like return to checkpoint because something
Yeah.
went awry. Like I got stuck in the dark in the like blackout level. I
Mhm.
forgot to take the light with me and went like just far enough that I couldn't find my way back. And I'm like, okay, I'm never gonna, I can look up and down and all around as much as I want.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna find the light to get back to where I need to go.
Oh, that level was kind of taxing.
Yeah.
If I had to like complain about something, that there was that one, and then there was one other level that I had an issue with, and I think it was because I was playing on like a launch day Xbox. Like I had an Xbox
Yeah.
One X that died, and so I had to go back to my old Xbox One. And that there's that level where you're like in a room and there's a little house in the room, but the room is giant. Like it's just
Yeah.
giant, and you're tiny. And like I feel like my motion through that room was just like so slow.
Yeah.
Maybe because of the Xbox, or maybe that's just the mechanic of it.
Mhm.
But it felt really like I didn't almost didn't want to try anything because every time I did something small there, like to go through the room again to try it, like it was just such a journey. Like
Yeah.
it was
No,
arduous.
mine did that too. And
Oh,
I
okay.
was playing on a, and I'm on a Series X.
No.
And I think that was the idea is they wanted to have that like sense of scale where it's like you're so small, like it feels like you're moving incredibly slow, but
Right.
in reality, like you may be moving the same sides. It's just that that space is so big. Like I don't know, but I had the same thing where I was just
Yeah.
moving and I'm like, I want to go explore this room, but it's gonna take me 10 minutes to walk to the other
Right.
side of this room. And I just yeah, I wasn't having it at that point. And but that level, so that like that's I think they call it like the dollhouse level.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was the most portal like level to me. Like going
Hmm.
around there and like moving the like bouncy castle and stuff around and kind of
Yeah.
getting that feel of like, okay, well, if I enter here, then I exit here. Like that level felt the most like Portal to me
Oh
of all
yeah.
the puzzle levels. And it was fun. Like it was a very like I mean, obviously you don't have that same control that you have in Portal where it's like, no,
Yeah.
I'm going to try to land one just up in that corner and see if I can get up there. But
Yeah.
it did take that kind of like weird, like non-linear thinking that I enjoy in puzzle
Yeah.
games.
Yeah. For sure.
Was there
I
a
got to.
puzzle? Like, was there a puzzle or challenge that like stuck you that like you got to a point where you had to like do that like step back and say, oh, I've got to look at this a different angle because I'm not understanding it.
So not for very long. I think that was one of the credits is it was pretty smooth in progress.
Yeah.
But there was the one spot where I'm actually currently stuck because I just loaded it up again, an
Yep.
hour ago, and I play through a little bit to refresh my mind. And there's the one where there's a little fan, you have to blow over the boxes, and then you go through the 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 doorway, and there inside of there's a window you can take down. And I remember trying so hard the first time through to get the fan in there to blow the window open. Like,
Yeah.
I was convinced that was how this puzzle had to go.
Yeah.
I had to drop the fan in there, it had to be big enough, and had to land and open that window. And that wasn't the solution to the puzzle.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I remember walking around with that fan forever. Like I remember setting it and like doing the Jenga tower
mhm,
and then thinking like, okay, well, like that's not the end of this. Like that wouldn't be the
right.
end of this fan. And so I did this like I take the fan into the house. I'm like, do I need to make the fan smaller? Like, is there something else hidden? Like
Yeah.
I blew those Jenga blocks all over the room, thinking that like there's got to be something on the floor. Like because I
Yeah.
have the same like I think I got a little bit stuck there too, where I was like, okay, I don't know what's going on, but there's something here. The one that got me the most probably was the moon, like grabbing the moon.
Mm.
And I don't know why, because and like I may even talk about it like in the playthrough, but I like walk in, I'm like, oh, that moon's really cool. Like if I wasn't stuck in a mental hospital, like I would sit and enjoy this full moon. And then I went on for like 15 minutes walking around that room and didn't even think to look back up. And I think what got me is in one of the corners, there's some like bad geometry where like
Mm.
the wall angles down for seemingly no reason. And I got so fixated on it. And I'm like,
Oh,
there has to be something with this wall. Like, why would this wall not align with the other wall? And I sat
yeah.
there and played around forever. And then finally, like, went back and like looked up at the moon and got the like cursor change
Hand
and was
changes.
just
Yeah.
like, oh, duh. Like, I saw the moon like right off the bat and it just didn't even think twice that the moon would be grabbable. But
Yeah.
in the end, like it wasn't like one of those like, oh, stupid game. Like it was
Yeah.
stupid Brett. Like I should have
Yeah.
realized that a long time ago. But I think that's probably the one that like stuck me the longest was that the whole grabbing the moon.
Yeah. But there were no in my playthrough there wasn't anything that was like so bad that it was frustrating. Like I never lost
No,
interest
nope.
or threw my controller down and hit Reddit for the answer or whatever. So
Nope. Yeah,
yeah.
I totally agree. At no point was I going to the internet and searching like, how do I solve this puzzle? It got to
Yeah.
the point where it's like, okay, I can take a step back and figure this out. Like nothing's overly challenging that I can't like get another coffee or something and step away for just a second
Yeah.
and rethink about it.
Come at it with a fresh mind. Yeah.
Which is great for a puzzle game because sometimes the development teams kind of get to that point where they start building for them
Yeah.
and something that seems easy to them because they've played it 1,000 times ends up just being an ordeal for a player that hasn't
Yeah.
played it a million times. So
Precisely. Yeah.
anything like from a development standpoint, is there anything you would change? Like if you were on this team, if you were remaking this game, was there anything that jumped out to you as like an improvement or something that would add a little more fun?
So I know the thing that I would have done, which would have made it worse, would have been to add more things to interact with, like just more just gizmos, like because when you run into one, it's so delightful. Like there's one where you hit the handle and it just falls off. And you're like,
Yeah.
ah, and you just hit the handle and it just falls off, and like those little things that were just a little bit different, like those they were so delightful when you hit them. I would have been really hard pressed to not insert more cruft into the game, which I think would have made it worse. I think it's pretty good, but like I don't think I would have had the self control to not do that
To not do it. Yeah.
involved in development.
Yeah, I mean I could see that going either way too, because the like obviously the more interactable things you add, the harder the puzzles become, right? Because then
Yeah.
you start thinking like, oh, is this part of the solution? Is this just environment? But it makes that environment feel like lived in. So
Yeah.
like to a certain extent, like I think adding that kind of stuff makes it feel because there were countless objects where I was like, there's no reason why I should not be able to pick this up. Like
Sure.
the fact that this is glued to a table, but
Yeah.
this alarm clock over here is not, like, was
Yeah.
sometimes frustrating to me. And I get it. Like they want the puzzles to be pretty linear. You don't want to get crazy. Because then things can get too easy. Like if you
Yeah.
can just pick up a clock and make it giant and walk right up it and finish the level, like that obviously
Yeah.
takes the challenge out of it. But I do want that world to feel lived in. So
Yeah.
I could totally see something like that's like that was one of the things that I love about like the Fallout games are my
Oh,
go-to
yeah.
whenever I talk about like lived in worlds. Like the fact that you can walk up to any computer terminal and like read someone's emails and
Yeah.
like see what they were browsing on the internet. Like that kind of stuff is just crazy. And the fact that like the developers take the time to say, okay, this is a random computer in a Nuka-Cola office. What do
Yeah.
we want this email inbox to look like? And they write out 20 emails that
And they're
you,
funny.
yeah, and you
And
just
they
go and
tell a
read them, and
story.
it's like there's no gameplay there. Like there's
Yeah.
no, you're not like getting a reward. It's not a fetch and return quest. It's literally just to make the world feel lived in. Like
Yeah.
that's all they do it for. But it does an amazing job at it. Like every office building you walk into in this
Yeah.
post-apocalyptic world feels like, well, this was a
Yeah.
real office building. Like
Everybody left.
business happened here.
Everybody
Right?
left the day the bombs went off,
Yes.
and yeah, and there's some mire crabs or whatever in the basement, but
Yeah. Yeah.
everything else is the same. But the previous point of the lived-in thing, because there is one level where there is a lot of stuff to interact with, and it's not all useful, and it's pretty interesting. Is like there's a kitchen, and like you have to make some boxes kind of the right size so you can interact with the two sides of the kitchen, and there's a bunch of stuff in there.
Yeah.
And that is one of the better scenes in there, just because there is more more going on kind of.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember I grabbed like the can of beans and just
Mm-hmm.
for fun, you just make a giant can of beans. Like I was throwing the soda cans everywhere. Like the soda cans were like the most entertaining part of this game to me
Yeah.
is just like, let's just see how big we can make a soda can. And it's just those kind of things. Like I didn't need them. Like as far as I'm
Yeah.
aware, you don't need the soda cans to solve anything, but they're there.
Yeah.
And it feels like those vending machines worked.
Yeah.
And like that was the whole point. It's like I wish there was just more of that. Like even if like I can't do anything really with the soda cans, the fact that I could press a button, it would give me a can, and I could screw around with it felt like a real world. And
Yeah.
it could have used a little more of that, I think. Like
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
think that would have been too distracting.
They segregated those soda cans mostly inside of hallways so that they wouldn't
Yeah.
mess with the main puzzle.
Yeah.
So you had to drop the can before you went anywhere.
Yeah, there was always the wavy line barrier
Yeah.
to say like, no, you're not bringing no soda can in here. And
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing is like they had those, so they really
Right.
could segment things off pretty well. I think
Yeah.
they could have probably added a few more things, but
Yeah.
no.
It was no major complaints. It's fun.
Yeah.
Little
And I
game.
mean, we covered the length. I think that was the, like, when I think about things to change, like that's usually one of the ones that kind of comes up is like, would I make it longer, shorter? I think this was like about right. The number of mechanics felt right to me. I don't think there's anything I would have changed there. Like for a puzzle game, I think it was really well designed, and the replayability is the other thing. Like we talked about it a little bit, but that idea that like, hey, I can get through the main gameplay pretty fast. Like you
Yeah.
can get through if you're not looking for stuff. The puzzles alone, like you could probably get through this in like first playthrough, I would say 3 hours if you were rushing.
Yeah. I think so.
And then you go back and there's extinguishers defined, there's fire alarms defined, there's the constellations defined, there's the blueprints defined. Like they give you like every
Maybe.
level has, yeah. Every level has these things, but yeah, those things make it like they add that replayability. And the other thing that I love is a developer commentary. Like so few games, you got that for a little bit. Like you got it in the world of DVDs,
Yeah.
and then games did it for a little bit. But then it kind of just like went away. And I love it. Like I played through the first couple of levels with that dev commentary on, and like they did it incredibly well. Like they have the little chess pieces you can click that
Mhm.
it's widespread. Like there's the lead artist talking, there's the director talking, there's the gameplay engineer talking. Like you get these little tidbits from everyone, and it's just a really good, thorough dev commentary. And it's just one of those things that like it takes a little bit of extra time, but it's great. Like when games included, it's just really fun to be able to hear those perspectives because you don't get them all the time. You can go and watch YouTube videos or that kind of stuff, and or follow them on LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever. But you don't get those like in the moment, like this is why we made the decision we did for this room. And I really liked that about this game.
I will have to revisit because I enjoy those as well.
Yeah. Anything else about Superliminal?
I don't think so. I mean, I'm excited to watch your playthrough and see what your takeaways were and where you had trouble and where you didn't. And it's going to be a fun watch, I think.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a really good game. I appreciate you choosing it. I appreciate the short play game. Like I need a few more of those. Hopefully we can get through a few more. But as always, like I appreciate the donation. I don't know what else to say. Like the 2-time donation is fantastic. So kudos to you and cheers that you're willing to donate to Primary Children's Miracle Network.
To the kids.
To the kids. For the kids.
I've probably been to the Primary Children's twice since the first donation. So I mean, like,
yeah.
You know, like when you have kids, you end up pretty familiar with
yep.
with
yep.
medical issues.
Been up there a few times. So yeah. I love it. It's a great team. It's a great team up there. So I'm happy to raise money for them.
Cool, man.
Okay. Thank you again. Yeah, we really appreciate it. Hopefully you enjoy the playthrough and we can get some more. We get some more people donating some more short play games, short play puzzle games. It's a sweet spot for me.
Games.
So
yeah, cool. I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, let's dive into Superliminal. This was a selection by Grady. This is his second selection. He donated twice. So anyone that's thinking about donating, like, know that there's some people out there that have sponsored 2 videos. So please donate. Primary Children's Hospital. Let's dive in. Let's see what Superliminal has to offer. So all that I know about this is he mentioned this has like some references and or call outs to Portal, which I'm all for. So let's see what we got. Photosensitivity. Like I know we're going to start well if we have a photosensitivity warning. It's always good.
Feelings of self-doubt. Do you find yourself prone to minimizing massive dilemmas, or for allowing the smallest problems to get blown completely out of proportion?
Yes.
At the Pierce Institute, our patent-pending Somnosculpt technology provides safe and effective dream therapy while you rest in the comfort
Is this Aperture? Is this Aperture Science?
Right next to the secondary overflow parking lot at the University Medical Center. Somnosculpt. We'll make
Somnosculpt. Somnosculpt. That sounds like a bad name. Left, right triggers. Okay, I got that. Okay, so that's the rundown. Standard controls. That is a clever way. I mean, it's now a door. It changed from my controls to a door. But that's kind of a clever start, just having them written on the wall. Terms of service. Oh, jump. I found my jump button. Let's get on the table. We've got some speakers. We've got a fire alarm. Some sprinklers. What can I do there? Is B our action button, I assume. That's what it said here on the terms of service. No, I wanted to learn. I didn't want to sign it. Well, we're in it. We're in it for the long haul now. There is no turning back now. We've signed the legal form. That looks like an elevator. Perception is reality. Can I rotate it? Nope. The bumper is also picking stuff up. I do not see a button for like drop. Oh, X is also picking stuff up. Whoa. I can jump onto the top of the rook. Maybe, maybe not. Oh, I tried to drop him up there. That did not work. Where did my chess piece go? Oh, it's right there. There. I made my move. Oh. Okay. I'll just pick it up then and put it right there. I can pick up anything,
Terms of
apparently.
service accepted. Congratulations on falling asleep. Welcome to Somnasculpt. Your progress may be monitored by qualified
that's
specialists.
tripping me out.
This orientation will adapt you to eyelids, our interactive, lucid induction dream state in which you retain full consciousness and control.
Something tells me we're not going to retain full control. If there's anything I know about these, if there's anything I know that I've learned from Portal, it's that you never retain full control. Okay, I'm gonna put it on the board. There. Your move. Your move, Captain. Can I jump on top of that? Okay, that wasn't... I thought I was gonna have to make a little stairwell there. No objects. Oh, is that right? It's like in Portal when the companion cube disintegrates when you go through those little walls. Mirrored glass. Yep. We're definitely in for it. If there's a fully mirrored glass room. And no objects. Can I reach that thing? Can I pick it up from this far? Yes, I can. It's hard. It's like the depth perception here is really tricky. Like I'm having a really hard time seeing like the depth at which I'm holding things. And I don't know if it like, if I can move them, like if that can change. But I find myself wanting to use Tears of the Kingdom like ultra hand controls where I can like push and pull. Once I've grabbed something, I have the ability to like set its distance from me, but that is obviously not working. Oh, it's changing its size. Okay. I kind of see. Its size is indicative of like where you pick it up. So if I like keep setting it down and then walking closer, I can make it bigger. Okay, I kind of see. Okay, I'm starting to get it now. It was a small, that's why it was such a small block when I grabbed it from this table. That makes sense. Now I'm gonna have to do the same thing. Somehow. Oh, it just came with me. Yeah, this is gonna be the same thing. I'm gonna have to like make it bigger. Gonna have to just like keep doing that. Well, that didn't get bigger. Whoa. That was trippy. That window there. Okay, I can't pick up boxes.
Confirmed. You can move freely, interact with surrounding objects, and listen to messages from your patient care team. Please note that I am the standard orientation protocol and that my voice has been explicitly chosen to remind you that I am not a part of your patient care team. I do not care.
I do not care. Well, I'll tell you this, you're no GLaDOS, so... Whoa. Okay. That tripped me out. I did not notice that before. Okay. Let's get our chess piece. There's no like duck or anything, right? Okay, so the idea is you've got to like place it on the floor far from you, because then you can do this where you have these giant pieces, except now I can't fit it through that hole, so there's gonna have to be a fine line there. Oops, crap, now it's gonna be like all small. Okay, so it is kind of just like messing with perception. It's Portal, but with perception. Hold LB to rotate. Okay, there we go. Now we're talking. Now we can rotate stuff around. Ah, okay. How do you rotate like the other direction? Can I take the lid off? Nope, I cannot. Okay, well, we have our slice of cheese. Oh, are we gonna try to make a big old ramp? Is that the rundown here? Now we've got some cheese going on. Okay. Leap of faith. Yeah. I don't think that's gonna do it either. Okay, that's only making it smaller. Okay, well that isn't what I wanted. Okay, let's pick it up and make it big. Yeah, there's definitely some like finickiness to grabbing these items.
During eyelids, you will lose the ability to awaken suddenly due to realizing that this is a dream. Evidence: I have already informed you that this is a dream. You did not wake up. Please complete the remaining orientation activities.
Evidence. There's evidence that you did not. Okay. Now we're talking. Nope, we're not. Oh, it is in here. Nope. Oh, now we've got just a little baby block. What's in here? I made a pretty big board. That's some big wood. We got some big wood over here. Why did that one get so big? Like, of all of them, this one's like gigantic. We've got like a plank going on there.
Warning: you have deviated from the orientation pathway. At the Pierce Institute, patient safety is a keynote in our corporate priority tetrahedron. A variable degree of force can and will be authorized to ensure patient safety. Please return to the orientation
Yeah, but do you
pathway.
have a giant can of soda? Because I do. I mean, I know you say that my safety is of utmost importance, but you're not the one with a giant can of soda. I cannot rotate it to the point where it will be on its side, though. Maybe I can. What way can I grab it to make that happen? Nope. Because you can't rotate. You can only rotate like 360. You can't rotate up. Maybe I'll unlock that later. I don't know. But I now have a giant can of soda. So, what do you have? Random soda. Baking soda. Uh-oh. Random soda was not the correct choice. I feel like there's something that I should be doing with the giant soda. They're not. Whoa. Someone wanted out of here. I bet that that's where the cake is. I bet the cake's down there. I can't pick up the grate. There are like doors or something down there. Where do we go? Can I jump through there? Oh, it is. There is a button down there. I was not at all paying attention to that. I don't know how to get it through there, though. Oh, it's just, you gotta have perfect placement.
All environments perceived during eyelids should reflect a typical mental state. If you believe your mental state was compromised by somnasculpt, please provide a comprehensive, rational explanation in your post-procedural survey. Completed surveys may be eligible for a gift card.
Really? I want a gift card. We're gonna have to learn how to get items past the blocks, aren't we? We're gonna have to, like, use our mental state. Can we throw it up and over? Whoa. Oh my God. Yeah. I don't know if that was the intended rational, but yeah. People beyond this point with objects will be fined. All right, I guess. Whoa. I don't know what that room is, but it's decidedly awful looking. Then you've got a fruit room. Okay, what was in that open door? More of the chest room. More of this room. Wait a second. That is not. Okay. Now we're just wandering aimlessly. There's chess and there's fruit, and it does not matter how many times. I wonder if it does. I wonder if it does matter. I don't think it does. Uh-oh. We're starting to run into the dysfunction. When signs are crooked, you know that's when things are going to start happening. So what do we got here? This, it opens the door. This one does who knows what. Oh, it opens that door. Okay, so where's our item here? Is that why this is crooked? Yes, it is. Okay. I can't see where I'm placing it though. Oh, so close. Yeah, but you can't. You really can't see. I guess I could put it on the ceiling and just let the chips fall where they may. Oh, I mean, it's big enough now. Oh, maybe I should grab it from this end like this. Okay, but then we lost the, like, size. Okay, there we go. Man, that took some that took some bending of my mind.
Please stand by for polite recognition on your completion of the Somnasculpt orientation. You did it. To maximize the time allotted for your therapeutic journey, please do not delay in proceeding through the final doorway as indicated.
Please do not delay. Why? I see that there's some cheese. What else do we got? What do we got here? Can we take this sign? Because that was kind of handy. Is there anything else? Pallets. Is there any other exit? Boxes. Why is there a brick wall? It's a very thin brick wall because I can see. So that cheese is going to ramp me to somewhere. I assume up that thing. That's like the only gap. I'm pretty sure that's the only gap that's big enough for me to get out, right? Except the rotation is just totally wonky. There we go. Now we're talking. Yeah, why is there a thin brick wall? So the real question is, am I still asleep? For real? And the second question is, am I still going to need my cheese? Should I be bringing my cheese along with me? Or is there going to be another something for me to pick up? Oh, you sucker. You tricked me. So, jumping ahead a little bit into room number 2, what is referred to as optical, some really fun things in this room. Like, overall, the like Shining type aesthetic, the like red carpet hotel room look and feel at the start was fantastic. Like, it gave this era like this sense of like freakiness to it, I guess, to a certain extent. And that was great. It set the mood for kind of the rest of the game, where you weren't quite sure, is this a puzzle game? Does this have a little bit of horror to it? The voiceover acting started to lend itself even more to that. The biggest challenge for me was understanding like what was grabbable, what wasn't grabbable. Sometimes the object movability was a little bit weird, like getting it to, you kind of saw that in the intro as well, like getting things at just the right angle or the right height to affect like what their size was going to be was a little bit tricky at times. Like pulling some of the signs off the wall did that a little bit. The visual glitches, like as you walked down hallways and those hallways started to shift, was super fun. That kind of started to set up the rest of the game, where you had a lot of that throughout the game. It kind of made you start thinking about a little bit more like, okay, well, sometimes corridors might not be what they seem at times. Like they might be a little bit different than I think. And that kind of guided you down finding some of the secrets. I loved the cube, the checkered cube puzzles, where you had to kind of like get just the right angles that those would pop out. I loved the one where you had to first adjust the table. Like I remember looking at the cube and thinking, okay, well, that's obviously a vase that's missing there. I'm going to have to like, where do I find this vase? And that kind of led you to like get the table to pop out. And then the table was used to get the cube, and you started getting a few layers deep. There's a lot of that in this game where it's almost like Inception, right? Where you have this like dream within a dream within a dream. A lot of the puzzles started to feel that way. A lot of times you would get these, like it's a solution inside of a solution, and you kind of had to break it into chunks. And I think that's really fun. It really set this game apart. And that's what I think made it feel a lot like a Portal, where you almost had to be thinking a couple of steps ahead. It wasn't just solve puzzle, move on, solve puzzle, move on. You kind of had to do that non-linear thinking a little bit ahead of stuff. The puzzles here were relatively easy for the most part, with the exception of the one room. I got stuck in one room for significantly longer than I should have. And it's funny because in the playthrough, I actually I'm walking around this room, and I walk in, it's the room where you grab the moon, and I see the moon right off the bat. I'm like, oh, that's a beautiful moon. Like if I wasn't trapped in this creepy hotel, like I would enjoy that moon. And I just at no point thought to grab it. And I walked around forever trying to figure out what was going on. I think what really threw me off was there's like one wall in the corner where the geometry doesn't align, where you kind of have like a weird angle on the geometry. And I got fixated on that. Like forever, I'm like, there has to be something here. This wall has to move. There has to be something behind it. If that geometry wasn't misaligned, I probably would have grabbed the moon significantly earlier, but I found that geometry, and it really just, I got fixated on it. And I don't know, that was probably the largest chunk of the game that I got stuck on, was that one room and grabbing the moon from the sky. It just never clicked to me to grab it, obviously. And that's a great puzzle. Like it really made me think. I mean, that's probably the hardest I thought in this game, with the exception of like there's the left-right turning in Labyrinth that we'll talk about a little bit later. But those two things were the only point where I thought to myself, like, okay, like let's take a step back and think about this. Everything else was pretty straightforward. If we take a look at level 3, the cubism level, a lot of the same. Like it's a lot of the same as level 2, the optical level. You're still moving cubes around. The difference is like those cubes were generally in the form of dice. They were already there. You didn't have to solve a puzzle to earn the cube and then place it. It was more about understanding how to place the cubes. There were some really fun dynamics with shapes though. There was the idea of the cubes breaking into pieces, and when you lift it up and drop it, that dice would shatter into however many 18 different pieces or something. There were the dice that were like stuck to the ground and stuck to the wall. Instead of moving the dice and picking them up and rotating them, you're just moving columns, and those columns are sort of shifting left and right. That was kind of fun. Like overall, this was probably the easiest room in the game for me. Like I kind of flew through this one. I went back and replayed it. I think I missed 1 or 2 fire extinguishers or fire alarms, and I wanted to grab them real quick. I think I ended up like I could get to the point where I finished this room in like less than 5 minutes. Like it was a pretty straightforward room. Nothing crazy. I think this was the level that I really did start to explore though. I think this is when I really said like, hey, I need to pay attention for fire extinguishers. I need to pay attention to alarms. I hadn't discovered the constellations yet, but I was kind of looking for nooks and crannies inside of that room, inside of this level. And this level was kind of what started it off. The first two, I wasn't really paying too much attention to that. I was exploring, but not going out of my way. I think this was the level where I was like, okay, if I'm going to try to get these achievements for all of the extinguishers, all of the alarms, that kind of stuff, I need to be paying attention. And level 3 was kind of the point where I think I started doing more of that. Looking at the 4th level, the blackout level, this one was fun. This was wildly different than the first 3 levels. And I found myself thinking that, like, as I walked through it, I'm like, what happened to the puzzles? This almost turned into like a Five Nights at Freddy's, like a FNAF type game, where it was a lot less Portal and a lot more like FNAF, where it was like, hey, what's going to be around the next corner? And there's the red paint trying to mimic blood on the ground, and it's just really dark. And really the level is about playing with light. Like the puzzles here are light puzzles. Like that was kind of the idea, is you're going to have to play with light to solve this, as opposed to playing with shapes and geometry and angles and that kind of stuff, which made it fun. Like it was very different. And sometimes you can get that in games. You get these wild mechanic switches and they can be frustrating. You're like, hey, everything I've learned up to this point is being thrown out the window for this new mechanic. And that's like, you see a lot of complaints about The Legend of Zelda with that, where every temple is some new mechanic, some new item that Link gets, and you use it for this temple and you throw it away, and you're relearning this a lot of like over and over. I think that was one of my biggest complaints. Like that's why Twilight Princess isn't super high on my Legend of Zelda list, is because all that mechanic switching could be frustrating, because some of those temples are pretty long and you throw away that mechanic. The reason I think it works in a game like this is it's short. Like these levels are 5 minutes long. So if you're learning a new mechanic really quick for 5 minutes, even if it goes away, even if we don't play with light again, it's not a huge investment. I'm not spending 30, 40, up to 60 minutes in this temple using this mechanic only for it to be thrown away. I'm using it for 5 minutes. And that darkness comes in and out of play a few times. You see a lot of it in Labyrinth, like in the Labyrinth level later. You see a lot of that light play. And so it doesn't get thrown completely out the window. But even if it did, you're only spending 5 to 10 minutes learning this mechanic. So if it's limited use, it's not as big of a deal. This was the level that really made me think like, oh, is this going to get scary? Like, is this going to become more of a horror game? Like, it kind of set the tone with the shining hallways in the second level. And then this really started to make me think, like, some of the voiceover acting in this level made me think like, okay, like, is this going to take a really weird turn off the edge? The other thing about this level is this was the one point in the entire game where I had to go back to a checkpoint. Like, at no point did I get myself stuck where I was like, okay, I'm stuck. I don't have a way or know a way out of here. In this level, there is, because when you climb through the boxes, I had gotten up on the ledge and thought like, okay, well, it's probably just around one corner or something, and kind of went into the tunnel without bringing the light with me. And little did I know, like, there's a whole section that you have to go through. And so I got to a point where it was pitch dark and I could not find my way back to grab the light. I was like looking up, looking down, spinning in circles, trying to walk forward, trying to walk back, and ultimately was just spinning wheels in a completely black screen. And so I had to go back to get a checkpoint and remember, like, okay, when I hop up on these boxes, I need to make sure that I bring that light with me. But once I did that, it wasn't a challenging puzzle. I think it was just that one time where I thought, I can probably get past this without bringing the light with me. And I was very wrong in that case. So I found it kind of interesting that in level 4, like I was resetting checkpoints. I didn't have to the rest of the game, but that was kind of the one point that I did. The 5th level, the clone level, was really interesting to me. Again, we're introducing a completely new mechanic that kind of goes away. Like this clone doesn't really come back the rest of the game. And some of the puzzles are interesting in this level. And I didn't know, some of them I honestly don't know if my solution was the intended solution. In particular, there's the room with like the dual staircases and the fan, and you have that giant apple. And I don't know if there was a way to get the apple up those stairs. I tried for a little bit and just couldn't figure it out. And so what I ended up doing, which may or may not, I didn't look up to see if it was the correct solution, but I ended up, there's a fire alarm up there that when you pull the alarm in this level, they just pop out the little T's because it's clones. And I ended up just like cloning those along the ground to the point where I could get one that could land on the button. Because you would clone a bunch of them and every once in a while you'd get one that would make a big jump. And as soon as I got one that made a big jump towards the button, I'd move to that one and start cloning it until I got a big jump. And eventually I got one to land on the button. And the buttons in this game do not have any sense of weight. Like it doesn't matter if it's a tiny apple, a large apple, the character, whatever it is, as long as something's on the button, it counts. And so even that one little T from the fire alarm counted and held the button. So I don't know if that was the intended solution, if the apple was like a red herring where it's like, hey, I'm just trying to trick you into figuring out this apple, which it did. Like I tried it for a good, 10 minutes probably and couldn't figure anything out. But ultimately that's what I did, which was interesting. I like games that allow you to potentially use the not intended solution. That divergent gameplay, that exploration is fun, and being able to kind of do that and find those emergent behaviors where, hey, this is an emerging technique that we didn't intend as a game designer, but it works, is always great in game design, especially these puzzle games. I hate the puzzle games that kind of box you into the solution they want you to do and throw physics or other ideas out the window. And if you're building a system like this, you have to allow for that emergent gameplay. And I think this game throughout the entirety did a great job of allowing that emergent gameplay and allowing people to go and explore and do weird things and use clones and boxes and all that stuff in ways that were definitely not intended. And in some cases, not even solving the puzzles. They're just having fun. Like you're just cloning apples and trying to make statues or putting the blocks in certain ways to try to balance them and trying to find things like the blueprints and constellations alone or this fun little bit of emergent behavior. This also happened to be the first level that I found the constellation. So I obviously wasn't looking for these hidden rooms prior to this, and I found that constellation and got it aligned and was like, oh, that's really cool, but didn't apparently leave it for long enough for me to get it marked as having found the soda machine. And so I ended up having to go back and play it again if I wanted to collect that constellation, because I didn't leave it long enough or click on it. I don't know exactly how you collect it, but it didn't collect it the first time I found it. But from then on, I knew that, okay, these levels might have hidden areas where I can collect these other things. And I think I found a few more after this point. The changes to the alarm clock, I wasn't quite sure if I was missing something there. Like you could click the alarm clock and it would go 1 through 8 and it would change the music. I wasn't sure if it was doing anything. At one point I thought maybe that had something to do with the puzzle. I don't know if it does or not. If it does, it was random that I happened to get it right. Maybe it's just changing the music. Maybe it's as simple as that. I don't understand. I found it kind of weird that those would be in this level that is the clone level, and that's like the one thing that doesn't clone. I feel like if it was just like an aesthetic thing where it's just changing the music, it could have probably been put to a different level. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I don't know what the intention was. Maybe there is a part of the puzzle that is it, or maybe there's a secret, like maybe setting them to a certain number unlocks something. I didn't go back and look. Level 6, the dollhouse level is really fun. This was like probably one of my favorite, at least top 3 in the entire game. I think the mix of size manipulation and location manipulation, and the whole concept of like Inception. This one really drove the like room within a room within a room concept, like quite literally. Like you're moving little miniature houses inside of larger houses. You're carrying things through doors. You're walking into a room, then moving it from the outside. It really took a lot of thinking. To me, this was the closest to Portal, obviously, because each doorway to a house was almost like a portal where you're entering these things. You'd then exit into like a slightly different dimension. You'd move the portal to get to somewhere else. I especially liked the pool area where you were moving that sort of inflatable castle. You kind of had to make it large enough that you could jump onto the ledge, and then you had to move it up to the top, and then you had to get through it so that you could come out of the top. It was kind of like a fun non-linear thinking puzzle where it was like, oh, I didn't quite understand, like, is this going to be size manipulation? Is this going to be location manipulation? Is this simply going to be like angular movement? Like, do I just need to rotate it so that I'm coming out a different side? It was fun. Like a lot of the puzzles here, I think were really fun. And I'm a sucker for like being a small thing walking around larger. So when you got into like where you're walking around the chessboard and the chess pieces are giant, like it just feels kind of fun. You're jumping off the table onto the floor. Dollhouse is like the perfect name for this. I felt like you're like a little action figure that's running around and manipulating these things. I think this was the level to me. I mean, obviously you're bending reality prior to this, but this was the level that really started to say, okay, this dream state is getting off the rails. Like the cloning started to get there where it's like, okay, this is silly. The blackout was like a little bit creepy. Dollhouse really like got to the point where it's like, okay, all bets are off. Like we are in complete dream state. Things are not what they seem. Reality is not real. And it set the tone for the next level and the levels after that. And I think this is kind of the point where things really go off the rails, where it goes from kind of fun, like physics puzzle game to just like completely abstract, non-linear thinking puzzle game. And that's really where things flipped. Like prior to this, it was like, oh, this is a fun physics puzzle game. Now it gets to the like almost psychedelic side of the puzzle game. And this is the turn, like this Dollhouse level is where things turned for me, where it was like, okay, now it's getting exciting. Now it's getting fun. Now things are getting a little bit trippy, to be honest, where it's like, hey, I've lost my grip on like what is and isn't possible within this game world. And I think that's incredibly fun. Room number 7, the labyrinth room. I mean, continuing from the Dollhouse where things are starting to get off the rails, labyrinth, the cart is flying. Like the cart is in the air. There are no more rails. It is where we are going. We don't need roads kind of territory where you literally are walking on walls, you're walking on the ceiling, you're falling through like physics portals. Things really start to get weird in the labyrinth sense. And some of the puzzles here like got me. Like I was a little bit confused. I think that where there's like hall 1 through 5 and it's the left and right, and whatever direction you look first is the dead end, where you have to like look at the sign, then turn the opposite direction so you can go the right direction. That took me a good 10 minutes. Like I could hear the sounds. I didn't have my volume up enough was part of the problem, where I couldn't hear the dings and the buzzers until I really started paying attention. As soon as I heard that, I think it became obvious, like, okay, things like when I'm looking and moving, things are changing. I can hear the sound of something changing. And as soon as I realized that, I started paying more attention to like, okay, every time I look right, it's the dead end. And then when I look left, it's the right way. And then I started realizing, no, it's just whatever direction I look first is the dead end. And that's when it clicked. And it's like, okay, I need to look at the sign and determine which direction it's pointing, then look the opposite. But that was probably that and the grabbing the moon were the two hardest puzzles in this game for me. Those were the only points where I felt genuinely like, oh, I felt like I was kind of like, I I've got to think about this. Like, I've got to take a step back and look at it from a different direction. All the other puzzles in the game were relatively straightforward, and those were kind of the ones that I think really just jumped out to me. My biggest complaint with this room are the spots where things just instantly change. You get that immediately flip of room. Like if you pick up a block, you're suddenly in a completely different room, which, I mean, it's a labyrinth. You want it to feel weird. But what was frustrating about it is I'm at this point hunting for constellations, fire extinguishers, fire alarms, blueprints. At this point in the game, I know those things are there and I'm looking for them. So if I accidentally grabbed a block in a room and was immediately flipped to another room, I would get kind of frustrated because I'm like, I don't know if I got all the fire extinguishers. I don't know if I pulled the fire alarms. And so I started getting ultra cautious before I would touch anything to make sure that I got through all that. Did I get everything in this room before I move on? But a couple of times it got me. A couple of times I thought, oh, this is just a meaningless block. But as soon as you pick it up, you're transported to a completely different place. And the gameplay, it wasn't frustrating from a gameplay standpoint necessarily, but from a collectionist sort of standpoint, I was, because I didn't know, did I get jumped to another room before I was ready? Like, I don't know if I found all the stuff in that previous room. And so that was my biggest complaint with not only this room, but probably the game in whole. There isn't a whole lot I would change. I think this is a well-rounded puzzle game. This little section where it was doing that was probably one of my biggest complaints. Level 8, the white space level, this is kind of the final level, right? This is like the final challenge. There's obviously like the retrospective, but that's not necessarily a puzzle. This white space level is kind of the climax of the game as far as puzzles is concerned. And it was beautiful. There were some absolutely beautiful aesthetic moments in this level that were just really fun to play through. Overall, the look and feel, it feels a lot like Unfinished Swan. If you've ever played that game, it's the play on black and white and stark contrast. You lose all sense of depth. And this level did that. And it was really fun to kind of play in that world and have that sense of like, I don't know, like the depth of this area. And you could start to grab what appeared to be shadows and grab what is foreground. And it just really took a lot of nonlinear thinking. Some of the other ones were really about physics and how do I reach this area? Like, how do I get from point A to point B? And I can see point A and point B. This kind of becomes, I need to figure out how to get from A to Z, and I can't see any of the letters in between. And there were some jumps. One room in particular, there's the room where like the stairs look like they're painted on the wall. It took me a little bit to like realize like that's a doorway and you've got to go out and around it. That play with black and white and depth of field was fantastic. Like, it was something that wasn't expected. There wasn't really much of that throughout the rest of the game. So this was kind of a fun new challenge. And at this point, the voiceover had gone from like medical facility to like you were 100% entrenched with the doctor, and the doctor is now almost giving you a motivational speech where they've acknowledged like, hey, you are like in a completely different dream state. This is no longer like a sleep study kind of thing. This is more of a like, hey, we're trying to help you understand your place in the world and depression. And I don't know how deep the game intended to be as far as like mental health, but you really start to touch on like some pretty legit mental health things in this level where you're talking about things that are very real, tangible lessons in mental health and things about changing perspective. And I know it's like referring to that in the puzzles and saying like, hey, maybe a change of perspective is worth it, but it rings true to the mental health side as well. And I didn't play the developer commentary on this, but I do think there's potentially like they did do some research into mental health for this game, because some of the things that are said ring fairly true. And it was fun. The thing that I liked about this level, loved and hated, is there's tons of exploration. Like, these are giant levels, but that was part of the problem, is exploring was hard because of the scale. Like, you were no longer in little rooms that you could kind of check out all four corners. You were in wide open spaces. And sometimes I was like, I want to walk over there and see if there's something hidden. And I start walking and I'm like, okay, this is going to be like a walk to get over there. And so that was a little bit frustrating at times, where it's like I wanted to explore, and the game prior to this had trained me to explore and keep my eyes out. But then when I tried to do it in this level, the scale was just too hard. It was like, I'm not going to walk all the way over there. Odds are there's nothing there, and it's going to take me 5 minutes to walk there and back. And so that was kind of one of my frustrations with the level, is how large the scale was. But I get it. Like, at this point, you were completely free from the facility, and it was more of a play on depth and kind of that mental state kind of stuff, and a little bit less exploration. This one had less of that than the previous levels. The final level, the retrospective, is obviously incredibly short and sweet. It's simply walking you back through your path. You're kind of taking each room. Each room is giving you a step through, where instead of solving a puzzle, you're just walking back through one of those rooms. You get a good aesthetic feel for the game. It's kind of fun to take that retrospective look at all of these level designs and see, oh, White Space is this black and white, and Labyrinth, I'm walking on a wall, and Dollhouse, I'm walking through this like pool area where the inflatable castle is, and you can kind of get this like backwards. It's almost like playing back through those levels in reverse, and it was kind of fun. You have the great voiceover. Like, this is the peak of the voiceover, really, is you're having the doctor re-explain all these things to you and kind of put the nice little bow on everything. And I thought it was a nice little touch, although it's obviously not a challenge to get back through this retrospective. It kind of put a nice bow on the experience that tied everything back together and really made you kind of like, without having to go back through and replay, you kind of got a feel for like, okay, now I start to understand where I was and what I was doing in each of these things. And I thought it was kind of a fun. I mean, retrospective is the perfect name for it, because it was exactly that. It was a little bit of a retro on the journey that you had taken on so far. Overall thoughts on Superliminal. This is a great game. Like, this is a really good short puzzle game. Like, it's not long. It's not one that you're going to spend 10, 15 hours on. You can get through this in, like, I mean, I went pretty full completionist, and I was probably under 5 hours. And that's great for a puzzle game. I don't necessarily like puzzle games that are giant things. I like to kind of have a bite size. I can get through it in a weekend, maybe a week of playing in between like lunch breaks and that kind of stuff. And this is right that. It fits right with like a Portal, a Braid. Like, it reminded me a lot of those two games where they're not long. They're not super difficult, but they do require you to think. It takes some brain power to get through some of these, and you're not gonna replay it a ton, but there is replayability there. There's more collections to be had, and you play it every couple of years. It's one of those, like, I think I play Portal and Portal 2 once every 2 to 3 years, just because they're such amazing games. You just want to re-experience them. And there's a certain point where, like, you know the puzzles, and that challenge is a little bit lost. After a couple of years, some of those puzzles you forget. You forget the things, and that's why you come back to them. And I could see myself in a couple of years replaying through Superliminal as a, hey, let me like re-experience this game. I remember it being short but fun, and come back and play it. I do the same with like a Braid a lot of times too. And I think that's right where this fits. And I mean, that's high praise. Those are two amazing games in this kind of puzzle genre. And Superliminal is right there with them in my opinion. One of the little things that I liked that I think, like, it obviously doesn't go unnoticed, but you don't pay enough attention to how fun they are, is the loading bars. The loading bars in this game are they're a trip. Like, they're just fun, little humorous. Like, you have some that start loading vertical despite being long. It almost reminds me of, if you look at like the websites for like bad usability, where they have like weird loading stuff that doesn't make sense. This kind of pushed that, where it was even further, where it would load letters instead of the bar. And sometimes it would like fill up from one direction and then come in and fill up from the other direction. They're just little silly things like that are dumb, but it was fun. It was unique and fun. And every time I got to the end of a level, I was curious what the next loading bar would be. And super simple to do, but adds a ton of character. This game was full of character, and I think that's what I loved about it. Overall, with the mechanics, I think it was a great mix. It's a great mix of movement puzzles, nonlinear thinking puzzles. You have object manipulation, you have size manipulation, you kind of have that directional rotation, a ton of wildly varying mechanics, but nothing really felt out of place. Like, I don't think any particular mechanic felt out of place, or I didn't feel like it was useless. And again, we talked about it before, but because these are such short levels, you can use a mechanic and not use it again. It doesn't feel bad. I didn't invest hours in this mechanic. So if I use it for 5-10 minutes and throw it away, it's completely acceptable. And I thought that was really, really fun. The dialogue in this game was really good. I think it was trying to be a Portal 2. It was trying to pull off the like GLaDOS and Cave Johnson, which, I mean, unfortunately is just, it's impossible. Like, Portal 2 is potentially the most well voiced over game that you can have. I'm hard pressed to think of one that's better. I mean, some obviously come to mind. Like, I think Halo ODST is one of my favorites. You have like Nathan Fillion in there doing voices, and some of the Marines, those conversations in ODST are amazing. Like, that's one of the most. More recently, like, I don't know if anyone's ever played The Quarry. The Quarry has amazing acting. Like, some of the voice acting in there, I mean, they did full mocap. You have like Ariel Winter and Justice Smith and these like big name actors doing full like facial recognition, voice acting, everything. And it's a beautiful game. You have like David Arquette in there, Ethan Suplee doing voiceover. Like, it's a brilliant game as far as acting and voiceovers go. You should check it out. It's more of an interactive story, but still a really, really great experience. This is trying to be on that level. I don't think it quite pulled it off, but for an indie title, I mean, you obviously can't hire like union actors necessarily for this, but I think it did a great job. Like, it added ambiance, it added character. We said it before, this game's full of character. The voice work is a lot of that. The voiceover combined with the doctor's voice, it really just added to that. And I think it did a good job, although it's not in that top tier for an indie game. This is probably one of the better voiceover games for an indie title that I can remember, at least in recent memory. One of the little things that you get after beating the game that I think is brilliant, and I love when games include it, it's rare, but the developer commentary. I absolutely adore when games include developer commentary. This was like a huge thing on DVDs when we went from like VHS tapes to DVDs, and you could have like these other audio tracks. Or like filmmaker commentary became a huge thing. It's kind of gone away in recent years, like it lost its novelty. But with games, it's a whole different genre, and I love hearing the design decisions of this team. I played through the first couple of levels with developer commentary, and it's brilliant. Like, this game has some amazing insights into their decisions. They have the tech lead talking, they have the story writer talking, they have the game director giving some snippets, art direction. Every discipline within game development is giving their 2 cents on various things. And it's a great class. If you're looking to get into game development or looking to understand how games like this are made, that developer commentary is gold. And I love when developers include it. So huge kudos to the developers of this game for including that. I love that they add that kind of stuff, and it's incredibly fun to hear their thought process on such a really, really well-made game. Like, this is a really good game, and hearing the design decisions that went into it was incredibly fun. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in and checking out this review / playthrough of Superliminal. A fantastic little indie game. I highly recommend it. If you're into Portal, if you're into Braid, if you're into any of those puzzle games, jump in and give this a try. This was a fantastic game. Very short playthrough. You could experience this game in its entirety in easily less than 5 hours. Probably closer to 2 or 3 if you're not going for all of the achievements or all the collectibles. A fantastic game. Check it out. Thank you to Grady for the donation to Extra Life. You too can donate to Extra Life. For $100 donation, you can come on, talk to me about a game of your choosing. You can torture me with a game like Bluey or Peppa Pig. You can choose a game that you love that I haven't experienced, or maybe you want me to experience again, and come on and talk about your passion for this game. If you have an indie game, if you're a student and working on a game, this is a great way for someone that's worked in the game industry to take a good long look at your game, give you some good critical feedback, and you can come on and talk about it and advertise it as well, potentially like sharing a link to downloads or having people sign up for betas, like who knows? Or I've had a few parents reach out and ask if their kids can join me, if their kids can get on and talk about Minecraft or Roblox. Absolutely. Like, I'm up for any game. If you are willing to donate to Extra Life, I'm willing to play whatever game you throw my way. And if your kids want to hop on and talk about Minecraft with me, awesome. If they want to talk about some other game they're playing, that's fantastic. So we love the donations. We're trying to raise money for Children's Miracle Network, specifically Primary Children's Hospital here in Salt Lake City, Utah. I appreciate any and all donations, even if you can't donate the 100. Every dollar goes to Primary Children's Hospital. So as always, we appreciate the donations. Please like, subscribe. I know everyone says it, but that is how these videos get seen by others. That is how we can continue to make them. That is how all creators kind of keep their pipelines alive. And it's honestly why we love doing it. But even more so, hop in and comment on stuff. Tell me about what your favorite part of this game was, or if there's a part you enjoyed, or if you have thoughts on this game. I love talking to people in the comments of these videos. But as always, I can't say enough how much I appreciate you checking out these videos. Thank you again to Grady for the donation. Thank you to everyone. Have a great day.